Live from the back of Ruth the Realtor's car, it's the Stacking Deed Show. I'm Ruth the Realtor's part-time mechanic, neighbor Doug, broadcasting live from the spacious recording studio in the trunk of her 88 Lincoln Town Car. On today's show, did you know that millions of properties go into foreclosure every year? It's a scary situation for homeowners, but what about investors? Can foreclosures be a path to real estate riches? Let's find out with our guest, foreclosure expert DJ Olojo. In our headlines, we talk real estate commissions and what it really means for buyers. Plus, we'll answer a call to Ruth's Rotary phone from Lance, who wants to know how to stage his home so he can sell it for top dollar. And of course, hold on, Lance, I'm just going to tell you right now, it's Velvet Elvis paintings. And of course, the best part of the show, I'll pop in later with my property pop quiz. And now, two peeps who are worth their weight in Kohl's cash. It's Crystal Hammond and Mindy Jensen.
Well, welcome to the show. And I unpride myself on Kohl's cash. How about you, Mindy?
I am delighted that neighbor Doug thinks that I am worth my weight in Kohl's cash.
High praise. I don't just hand that out to anybody like Kohl's does.
Even funnier. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. We have a new voice joining us as our co-host today. Let's make up something funny to where Joe is. Joe is
getting a proctology exam?
Headlining at the Sizzler? Maybe
No. That's my territory. I'm not letting him in the Sizzler.
He picked up a couple shifts at the
Joe's
Sizzler.
got a colonoscopy scheduled today, so I'm stepping into his.
Wow.
Mindy's only an 8. Joe's a 10, like shoe size.
Got it. You have big Phil's shoes. Big Phil's to shoes.
Oh my God.
Have you been drinking?
No.
It's 8 o'clock in the
I
morning.
haven't had my tea. I have not had my tea yet.
Oh, you want to go get it?
No, but we have a great show for you guys today. We have DJ Olojo with us today, and he's going to talk foreclosures. So foreclosures not only from an investor standpoint, but also if you're going through it. Because, well, I guess investors can not get it both ways. But, you know, if you have a tenant that's not paying, or if you want to look for foreclosure deals, there are a lot of options to you. So we're going to learn more about that. But let's see. First, we've got a headline coming up. So let's get right to it. Let's hop in with both size 8 feet or 10 feet.
Hello, chaps. And now our Stacking Deeds headlines. Cheerio and pip pip.
Our headline comes to us from the New York Times, and Mindy found this one. It says, I hired an agent to sell my home. Do I have to pay the buyer's broker? Now that this decision's come out, everyone has questions about what's happening with real estate commissions. Do I have to pay it as a buyer, or can the seller still pay it? What are your thoughts, Mindy?
So this was a question for their columnist, and it said, I recently signed a contract. That is key to this particular question, because every time you sign your name on a contract, that's a legally binding document. And that contract shouldn't be signed until you read it all the way through. We're recording this in April, and the NAR decision doesn't go into effect until July. So the contract you signed now that says, I will pay my real estate agent X% is a legally binding document, and you would have to cancel that contract if you don't want to honor your obligations in the contract. What is very interesting to me is that this is not a new thing. You have always been able to negotiate your commissions, and it takes a bit of explaining, so bear with me. I am a real estate agent. Let's say I charge 6%. I am selling Crystal's house to neighbor Doug. Crystal, we have signed a contract. Doug. Yeah. We have signed a contract that says you will pay me 6%, not me 3% and Doug's agent 3%. You're paying me 6%, and then I am paying neighbor Doug's agent. And this is the problem with this whole lawsuit, is that It has always been this way, but real estate agents aren't explaining it that way. They say, Crystal, you're paying me 3% and you're paying Doug's agent 3%. And it's semantics, because when I say you're paying me 6% and then I'm paying the agent, of course that's coming out of your pocket, Crystal. I'm not giving Doug's agent 3% out of my own pocket. I'm giving him 3% out of your pocket.
My pocket.
Right. So, Mindy, can you explain let's back up a little bit and explain how we got here for people who may not have heard previous episodes where we talked about the lawsuit and the ruling. And can you just explain that a little bit to us all? And then I have a follow-up question, but I want to hear your take on that first.
Well, speaking of backing up, hello, Mindy. We didn't even introduce you in the beginning of the freaking show. My brain. Yeah. Do we miss Joe that much? Yeah. All right, Mindy, first of all, Mindy of
Bigger Pockets Money. I am the host of the Bigger Pockets Money podcast, and I am here today to talk about real estate. I'm also a real estate investor, a real estate agent for the last 10 years, and the author of First Time Homebuyer. But also, I just love talking about money and real estate. So I am so delighted to be here with you, Crystal. And it's totally fine that you didn't introduce me, because we're besties. We go way back.
Way back. Let's
blame Joe.
Yeah. It's always Joe's fault.
It's always Joe's fault. Okay, so now back to the lawsuit. There was a group of sellers who were upset that they had to pay. They had to pay both the seller's agent's commission and the buyer's agent's commission. So they sued and they won. They sued, I think it was 4 real estate agencies and the National Association of Realtors, which is NAR. It's a big industry group. Because NAR owns the MLS systems across the country. So every one of them. So
multiple listing service.
Multiple listing service. Yes. This is where real estate agents list your house. When a house is listed, that's where it's listed at, on the multiple listing service. So in my personal local multiple listing service, there's a spot for the buyer's agent commission, and it is a required field. Little red star saying you have to enter something in here. So you could enter $1 if you wanted to, but you had to enter something. And that was also part of this lawsuit.
Oh.
And this is in a nutshell. If somebody wants to email, I don't care, tell to somebody else.com about how all the little things I got wrong. But this is in a nutshell what happened. And NAR lost. The real estate agencies lost. They now have this millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars judgment that is going to go into effect in July. But what is interesting to me is that this was never an obligation on the seller's part to pay the agent, but it comes down to the individual real estate agents who are using the wrong phrasing. I have always told my listers that if they want to get people into the home, they're going to need to offer a buyer's agent commission. Agents don't work for free. And I don't think that that's an obnoxious thing to expect to be paid for your work. Crystal, do you get paid for your work?
Yes.
Doug, you probably don't, but you know.
Yeah, he's overpaid. He is overpaid. Don't listen to him if he says otherwise.
They throw Skittles through that little hole in the armrest back into the trunk. That's my pay.
So then you get paid. So
And it's only 6% of the bag of Skittles. I don't even get the whole bag of Skittles.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. 6% is the going rate. Ooh. I just said going rate. That is a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act to quote a going rate or to say that your commission isn't negotiable. And that is the crux of this lawsuit, is the antitrust laws that were broken. Oh. So back to this question, I recently signed a contract. Well, the new laws haven't gone into effect yet. That happens in July. So because they signed a contract, yes, they do have to pay their agent. They said they'd pay their agent. It's just you honoring your signature.
So can I ask a question?
You just did. I love when people say that.
Can I ask 2 questions?
You just did.
1, 2, you're out.
So one of the common things I had seen in many articles when this news broke and when the judgment came down in this case was that now sellers, but at least sellers, possibly sellers and buyers, could start to negotiate the rate.
They can. They've always been able to negotiate the rate.
So do we, meaning putting myself in the shoes of a seller, do we have a better shot at it now of getting the agents to say, okay, I'll take 4%, 5% instead of the 6%? I'll just then split that. Whatever we negotiate, then I'll share that with the buyer's agent, and I'll give 2% to them, and I'll keep 2% instead of 3 and 3.
So,
Do we have a better shot at that now as a home seller?
Yes and no. My rate isn't negotiable, but that doesn't mean somebody else's rate isn't negotiable.
Oh.
So if Doug, you want me and my amazing expertise, because I am perfect in every way, you want me to sell your house, I tell you what I charge. I charge 6% or 2% or whatever it is that I charge. And you can say, well, I don't want to pay that. And I can say, I don't want to work with you then.
Yeah.
So
call Joe Schmo Realty.
I understand that general nature of capitalistic transactions. I get that part.
Well, but you do, but people, maybe other sellers do not. They may think, okay, well, this is, because of the language that I'm using, if in fact I wasn't perfect and I said, this is the going rate, well, there's a violation right there. And if I say, if you don't know what you are doing, Doug, and you say, oh, well, if this is the going rate and Mindy has that winning smile, I'm going to go with Mindy because everybody's going to charge me the same. And
I thought I was the big ego in the room. Mindy.
Excuse me, that's mine.
Well, I understand, but what I think I'm going to try to read between some of your lines. I think what I hear you saying is it's unlikely that agents will be willing to negotiate down because they don't have to yet. So am I hearing you right? They don't have to. It's going to take a while to move that needle, I think is what I'm hearing you say.
It could take a while to move that needle. So here's a scenario. You want to sell your house and I say I charge 6%. And Crystal says, well, I'm just getting started. I don't have the deal pipeline Mindy does. I'm an agent and I'm going to charge you 4%. Perhaps you go with Crystal and you have a great experience. Or perhaps you go with me and you have a great experience. Or perhaps you go with Crystal and because Crystal has never done this before, you have a terrible experience.
Yeah.
So it has always been the case that commissions are negotiable. It has always been the case that you could choose whatever agent you want to sell your house. You don't even need an agent to sell your house. You could FSBO it. That means for sale by owner. So it's always been a choice, but I think that there's been so many agents who are either uneducated about the phrasing that they have to use or simply don't care and are trying to bully sellers into listing with them by saying, no, this is the going rate. You have to pay this much.
One more question. Do you think the current inventory situation in the housing market could actually accelerate a change in rates? Because, and here's what I'm hoping you say yes. Please say yes to this, because I am getting ready to sell a house soon. If there aren't as many opportunities for agents to get listings, because there aren't as many people willing to put their homes on the market, might they say, all right, there's just not a lot coming my way to try to sell, so I'll take 5% because I haven't seen anybody knock on my door to say, hey, can you help me sell my house in the last month? So I'll take it. You think that's going to help move the needle faster?
I think that doesn't hurt the seller's cause at all, because you're right. There is a severe inventory shortage. There is a severe supply shortage. And unless we change the building laws, or building process, that's not going to change anytime soon. And I'm talking like a decade. So there's a lot of things at play. And the sellers now have more power in the transaction, but also you have to consider who is showing your house. Now, here's another twist. There is a way for, let's see, I am not a party to the contract. As the real estate agent, I am neither the buyer nor the seller. So I can't write into the contract that you, the seller, need to pay me unless my buyer has a signed agreement with me called a buyer's agency agreement that says if the seller does not pay, the buyer is obligated. Now, me, the real estate agent, is acting in the financial best interest of the buyer by asking the seller to pay me. So this is one of those, and I know this is odd for a government idea. This is one of those great on paper, not going to be working in reality situations.
That is interesting. But you also bring up a good point, Mindy, about negotiating, because See, I think people do have it wrong because they think now, since I'm a buyer, I'm going to have to pay the commission, and I'll go to my realtor like, hey, since I'm a buyer and I have to pay you a commission, I want to get a lower commission because I already know where I want to live. I know how to search Zillow. And so I just need you to help me with the contract. Can I get a discount thanks to that?
You might be able to, but that has been the situation for years, thanks to this little thing called the internet. You can search Redfin and Zillow and just Google
everywhere
houses for sale in Longmont, Colorado, and you get this great big list. So I think that this is a strange period of adjustment. And I think in the beginning, maybe sellers will stop offering commissions. But I also think that in the end, nothing's really going to change. There's other issues like right now, VA borrowers who are like veterans, VA borrowers can't pay their buyer's commission. That's like a limitation of the loan product. So if Crystal is not offering a commission and neighbor Doug, the vet, wants to use his VA loan to buy it, there's going to be a problem. Doug's not going to be able to buy your house. Sorry, Crystal. You're going to have to put it back on the market.
A VA loan, there's a stipulation in a VA loan that you cannot pay as a buyer.
The buyer's commission, the buyer's agent commission. So that's got to change. I mean, it's already difficult to get a VA loan accepted in some areas because real estate agents are uneducated about the process, and a VA loan has this idea that it's more difficult to get accepted or more difficult to pass the VA loan inspection. And it's not. You can't have a dump. I think it has to have a stove and no paint chipping off the walls or something. And again, if I get that wrong, I'm not a lender. Talk to your lender if you want to use your VA loan. But this is going to have a lot of effect on other things that wasn't necessarily in the forefront of the mind of whoever decided that this is going to go down.
The bottom line is to negotiate like we've been doing this whole time. Because let's say, Doug, I want to buy your house and I don't have a realtor. Like a lot of times you would still, in the contract, it says you're paying 6% commission. So then does that give way to say, all right, it's 3% because there's no buyer's agent?
You would have to negotiate that ahead of time because, again, it's phrasing. Crystal, you want to buy Doug's house. Doug has hired me to sell his house, and I have said, I will charge you 6%. My fee is 6%, Doug. And I don't say anything, as I should not.
So there's nothing in the buyer's side. If Crystal's buying my house, and I'll give you a special deal on it, Crystal, but if Crystal's buying my house, there's nothing on your side of the deal, Crystal, that says you're paying any commission of any kind. It all happened on the listing side from the seller and to the seller's agent. Is that what you're saying, Mindy?
Well, technically, but again, I've got a buyer's agent representation contract with Crystal saying if the seller doesn't pay, then you will pay.
Got it.
I see.
That makes sense. And I'm paying my half.
So what's going to happen
not a going rate.
Yeah. So what's going to happen is Crystal is going to send me a bunch of listings. Hey, I want to see these 10 listings. And then I'm going to look and say, oh, this one offers commission. This one offers commission. This one doesn't. I'm going to put that at the bottom of the pile.
Right.
And hope that we see one of the others.
I don't like that house. It's not a great location. Yeah. You really don't want to look at that house.
I would never say that.
Who wants a pool?
That is redlining or steering. Yeah, there's a lot of rules that agents are supposed to follow. And I think that sometimes they forget about them.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the luck of the realtor draw because just, hey, if you're getting a brand spanking fresh out of taking the exam realtor, and you really have to consider those factors when you are negotiating because there are a lot of big red flags that can be missed. And there are a lot of rules that they're not in the habit of following or knowing or checks to cross and dots to I.
And I don't think that it's necessarily agents trying to be disingenuous because, like I said, it's all semantics. When I tell Doug that he's not paying me 3% and your agent 3%, he is paying me 3% and your agent 3%. But it's me taking my fee and splitting it with the buyer's agent.
Right.
So
up to you. That does open other things because then the buyer's agent, it comes back like, hey, give me my money, Mindy. Where's my half?
Now I'm starting to see agents who have this signed agreement and then they get to the closing table, the seller isn't offering commission and the buyer's like, yeah, I don't have the money. Sorry.
Wow. So then how do you avoid stuff like that? I would say it's based on it's a relationship kind of thing with the realtor.
It is, but if enough buyer's agents get burned like this, they'll simply stop showing houses that don't offer a commission. And there are going to be people like neighbor Doug who are so rich that they're excited to pay the buyer's agent commission.
I kind of tuned out there for a minute, but I'm back.
Well, that's another good point. When you're cruising the listings, just be cognizant of ones that don't have the buyer's commission offered. Is that what we're looking for? If you're looking at a listing.
And also read every contract that you sign before you sign it. Because
Joe is a huge proponent of that. Yeah.
Joe does know a thing or two.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, he gets it right. And that particular one is absolutely correct. If you're putting your name on the bottom line, you need to know what you just signed. Actually, no, you need to know what you're signing before you sign it. And if it says you're obligated to pay your buyer's agent commission, if it's not offered, then it is you who needs to be talking to your buyer's agent about the commissions that are being offered on the property that you're looking for.
Wonderful. I'm going to link to this article, which I think our discussion really hit the nail on the head, to the article in the show notes. And if you want the show notes, head to stackingdeeds.net/show notes. But speaking of professionals, we have DJ Olojo coming up, and he's a foreclosure expert. So if I want to buy a foreclosure, am I going to find a realtor who specializes in gated community properties or luxury properties? No, I want to find a realtor that is well-versed and is fluent in foreclosure. So coming up on the other side of Doug's trivia, we'll have DJ Olojo. So Doug, I think you have a property pop quiz for us. I didn't pop my peas that time.
I do, but first I've just got to get over the way that you're saying foreclosure, because it's making me very uncomfortable.
How do you say it?
Well, you're saying foreclosure, and I say foreclosure. I think almost everybody on the planet says foreclosure.
And I say foreclosure. Foreclosure. I said it the same.
Not a three-closure.
Just like...
Exactly. Foreclosure. I hear F-O-U-R.
Oh, I'm saying the number 4.
You're saying foreclosure.
Not a foreclosure.
It's a foreclosure sale. Hey, I'm going to do a foreclosure sale.
Foreclosure. For you, for me, for all of us.
This is,
okay,
I'm just having fun with you because I can't tell you how many words I say in my house that I get corrected on. Apparently, I say cream cheese incorrectly.
How do you say cream cheese?
That's the way I say it. I say, oh, I just used the cream cheese. And it's apparently cream cheese. Like it's almost even, or you emphasize the cheese instead of the cream. Mindy, you want to weigh in on this?
Yes, I think that you have kids because my kids also correct me about everything. Shout out to Claire and Daphne.
It's actually my wife. There are so many words that my wife
she can hear you chewing.
Oh my God, yes.
Stop it.
Okay. Hey, how about a property pop quiz? Hey there, Deeders. I'm Ruth's wrench-wielding repair guru, neighbor Doug. And since we're all about real estate here on Deeds, we're going to talk about the most successful real estate company of all time. No, I'm not talking about the British monarchy. They've been selling stuff off ever since World War II. Of course, I'm talking about McDonald's. While the first restaurant was opened in California, the first franchise was opened in 1955 outside of Chicago. Things were going okay, but they weren't making obscene amounts of money yet. That's when Ray Kroc's lawyer helped him come up with a plan to own all of the land that each franchise was built upon. The franchisee would then lease the land and the building, guaranteeing McDonald's headquarters a steady income regardless of individual store sales. McDonald's finally took their game international in 1967. And that brings us to today's Property Pop Quiz. Where was the first McDonald's outside of the United States? I'll be back right after I get Ruth to pull over so I can order the Big Kids Happy Meal. They still come with toys, right, though? I mean, I want the toy. Do you guys have a guess? I think you know, Crystal. Mindy, any guess where it was?
Florida.
I forgot.
The question is
U.S.
Florida.
That is funny. Texas.
Well, depending on where you go in Florida, you'd swear you weren't in the U.S.
Do I have a guess? I actually know, so I...
Oh, you do?
Oh.
I bet. Oh, you need to say it out loud because you might not know what you think you know.
Oh, isn't it Japan?
See? Fail. Huge fail.
Huge fail.
The question is the first McDonald's outside the United States. So you're going with Japan.
Oh,
okay.
Now I remember.
Oh, now she remembers.
Great news, Dieters. We've been able to grab a deal just for you through our partner Hemlane. How about 20% off this invaluable tool? You heard us talk about how much we love it. Now you can get 12 months for 20% off, but you got to act like right now, Crystal.
Yeah, act fast, because one benefit you can give yourself is better property management. You will sleep sound with better property management. And we've mentioned a ton of property management softwares that are out there, but let's give people 3 reasons why Hemlane is different, Joe.
First, software alone doesn't really solve your problem, and that's why Hemlane's property management provides 24/7 repair coordination. That's right. You can either use your own service professionals and plug them into Hemlane, or you can tap into their licensed network. By the way, notice how I said licensed network?
Yes. Hemlane definitely knows who you should go to for help. But second, many of you are investing out of state, present company included. So
my son, yeah.
Both, yeah, which we still need to have on the show. You keep promising us this. So Hemlane connects you with licensed leasing agents and other tenant placement services to help you find and place a tenant.
And third already, Hemlane's ranked number 1 by Gartner with a 4.8 star ranking out of 5 in their reviews. When I'm looking for food, if it's 4.5 and under, Crystal, I'm not going near that place.
Same. So you can manage your rental properties with 100% transparency and control. Those are 2 very important things. Without the administrative work through Hemlane, they offer everything from advertising your rental to over 30 rental websites to automatic rent collection. And they collect late fees. That way you don't have to listen to excuses. You just automatically collect those late fees.
So here's the deal, Dieters. We've been able to grab just for you a deal with our partner Hemlane, and this goes away at the end of March, which means you've less than a week to get this done. How about 20% off? You know how much we've talked about how we love it. You get 20% off the next 12 months, but you got to act fast. Talk about over leverage. You can leverage these great tools for less money. Use code BLOOM, the number 24SD, BLOOM 24SD at checkout. That's BLOOM 24SD, and you get 20% off your next 12 months of Hemlane. 2 ways you can do this. You can go to Stacking Benjamins, our sister show, stackingbenjamins.com/Hemlane, HEMLANE, or Crystal, it's at the top of our Stacking Deeds site.
Yep. There's a menu right up top.
stackingdeeds.net, and you'll see Hemlane at the top. Just click that, then use code BLOOM24SD at checkout for Hemlane. Goes away the last day of March, so make sure you do that this week, Dieters.
Hey there, Dieters. I'm McDonald's dietitian and milkshake sucking champ, Ruth's mechanic, neighbor Doug. Did you know that McDonald's has an actual school called Hamburger University with over 60 full-time professors? And I want to point this out. The logo for Hamburger University is, wait for it, French fries. Am I the only one who sees an issue there? But we're not concerned about food because we're talking real estate. McDonald's finally became profitable once they focused on generating revenue through land leases, initially charging a 20% markup but increasing it to 40%. They were minting a lot of money long before they made those awful mint milkshakes. Yeah, I know that's controversial.
Sure.
By the 21st century, McDonald's had 35,000 outlets in more than 100 countries, with one McDonald's opening every 5 hours. But our question was, where was the first location outside of the United States? The answer is Richmond, British Columbia. And bonus trivia, the first one outside of North America was in 1971 in Yagoona, Australia. I just wanted to say Yaguna. It's fun. And now let's pull over this ancient Lincoln so we can pick up today's special guest, DJ Olojo.
Hey, you looking for a ride? That sounds so
Absolutely.
bad. Well, we have new to Ruth's backyard. Please introduce yourself for our lovely, lovely listeners.
Hey, y'all, my name is DJ Olojo.
So what brings you to Texarkana, which I feel like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, where I'm stuck in some time warp or something. So I never believed Texarkana is a place, but what brings you to the area?
Well, the reason I am in Texarkana is because I have a goal of helping 1 million homeowners successfully navigate foreclosure, whether they are in Texarkana or Arkansas or Atlanta or any other mythical or mysterious place.
You're here to help. Well, that's interesting because foreclosure, that can be interesting on both sides. Number one, a lot of people, that's how they get into real estate. And then number two, that's how they have a fear of getting into real estate. So can you tell me, how are you and foreclosures synonymous?
Well, the thing is that I've been on every side of foreclosure. And when I say every side, there are multiple sides because it's multifaceted, whether you are the lender or the person being foreclosed on, or the investor or the real estate agent or the attorney or whatever else may be the case. I have been involved in foreclosures from every aspect of that thing. And so basically, having been someone who has seen people go through foreclosure firsthand in my family, but then also being an investor who has been at the foreclosure courthouse steps and bought the property at the auction. And
we have a goal of trying to help 1 million homeowners successfully navigate foreclosure. And when people buy a house, whether it's their primary residence or an investment property, they don't think about the bad things that can happen along the way. Most people think about paying the house off in full, having a great investment that reaps great dividends and benefits that they eventually sell for a great profit and things like that. But when bad things do happen to people facing foreclosure, right? And when bad things happen in life and things that are unexpected, it's all about what do you do? And our goal is just to help people understand is that you have options when you're facing foreclosure, and don't stick your head in the sand, but take decisive steps that you need in order to protect your financial future.
Right. Don't do the ostrich. I always tell people that. I remember early on when I messed up my credit, when I got my first credit card at 18 and I didn't have a job, I was like, oh, they keep sending a bill. I'm just going to do the ostrich, stick my head in the sand. But this is great because when we're telling our deeders, we're deeders here, to do the math when they're thinking about real estate investing, you always need a plan when things don't go right, because there are a lot of things that can happen. Yes, it's a beautiful thing, but sometimes you have things happen, like if your tenant decides to stop paying rent, if your tenant totally trashes the place and decides to stop paying rent. And when, let's see, Mother Nature, lightning can strike, there's insurance for things like that. But sometimes people think the goal of insurance is to get out of paying claims. So when you're in that situation where the money's not coming in, this is a loss, what are my options? We want our deeders just to get educated of what are the different options. So DJ, can you tell them about those options? So don't stick your head in the sand is step one. But then next thing.
Step two, right, is getting educated about what the options are, right? So listen to podcasts like this to really understand, all right, what are my sources for next steps? And so that's your next best guess, is to get educated. Step three is to figure out where you are on the foreclosure spectrum. And what I mean by that is that some states, the foreclosure can be as short as 8 weeks, and some states could be years, right? And so understand if your state's a judicial state or a non-judicial state. How quickly does that foreclosure process happen, right? And then depending on what type of loan you have, if it's an investment property, right, that where you got a loan that's a commercial loan, well, that has a different speed to it than if it's a primary residence, or if it's something that is a FHA loan that you bird, or something that you used to live in now that you keep as a rental property because you bought a different house, right? Understand the type of loan you have, because each of those loans will have different modification options, will have different things that you have to do, especially if it's a government-backed loan. I mean, especially if it's a VA loan or things like that. And so keep all that in mind. So don't stick your head in the sand. You get educated on what options are available. You understand the loan that you have and the things available to you. But then the other part is understanding where are you at in the capital stack. And what I mean the capital stack is if you go through with the foreclosure, right? Are you going to be in a situation where your property has equity? Are you underwater? What is the situation? And I say where you are in the capital stack, you as the owner are always at the bottom of the capital stack. But if you have a house that's worth $300,000, but your mortgage is only $250,000, well, you know, if you sell that property, then you can make a profit. And so understanding if you are underwater or if you have equity is so important because that helps you decide what you need to do with the property, right? You don't need to do a short sale if you know you can go and sell it and make $50,000. You don't need to do deed in lieu of foreclosure if you have equity in the property. You don't need to file bankruptcy if you know you have equity in the property. Understanding that is so important to the decision you make about how you move forward when you are facing foreclosure.
Yeah, you shouldn't shoot yourself in the foot because there are, and of course, this definitely depends on number one, how you bought the property. And we tell you not to buy too expensive. And then it depends on location too, because there are certain markets where we're still in a housing shortage. So some places are flying off the market. So is it best for you to just list that property? And most likely you may get into a bidding war on your property if it's in the right area. So there are different things to look at. So yeah, what are those different situations where, okay, I'm underwater, what should I do?
Well, if you're underwater on your property and you are deciding what to do, I think you have to really look and say, what type of property is this? Mm-hmm. So if it's a primary residence, how much do you want the house? Do you have other areas where you can pull capital from? Can you refinance the loan? What age are you at? Can you do a reverse mortgage, right? And so those are all things if it's your primary residence. Now, if the deeders are looking at investment properties that they own, then you have to really figure out, all right, how valuable is this property to me? And what do I want to have happen? And what I mean by what do I want to have happen, we all, as people who have invested in real estate for numerous years, you know there are properties that you're going to take a loss on, right? It's just what happens. If you do enough deals, you will take some losses. And so the question is do you have the financial wherewithal to just take the loss and move on down the road, right? Without messing up your credit.
Yeah,
exactly. All right. And if you don't find yourself in a position where you do have the financial ability to do that, all right, is the deal salvageable? Can you bring in other investors? Can you do a novation where you're partnering with somebody to help get the project finished? Can you potentially look at doing a subject to scenario, which also has its challenges and things like that? But really just not saying, oh, I'm underwater and throwing your hands up. It's really just about saying, what options do I have available in the time that I have between now and the foreclosure? And I need to go back and say, though, as you are doing all this, your most important thing that you can be doing if you are facing foreclosure is communicating with your lender and their attorney, right? It's nothing worse than someone who owes you money not saying anything about the fact they owe you money. Like we all have that cousin, that family member, that friend, or now maybe previous friend, right? Exactly. Who we have, given a loan to and they said they were going to pay us back. And when it came time to pay us back, we hear crickets. We don't hear nothing.
Right. But you see them on Facebook living it up.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. And boats and planes, vacations and everything else, right?
And the banks can look up that stuff too while you're trying to be invisible or disappear. They can look up stuff. So, yeah, it's not even reaching out to make excuses. It's just about communicating, right?
Absolutely. But the thing is, it's just like in life, right? If I communicate with my significant other, right, and say, hey, I'm supposed to be home from work at 5 o'clock. But unfortunately, I don't get home to 10 o'clock, right? If I don't say anything between 5 and 10 o'clock, she is going to have some words for me when I get home, right?
Red hot. Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Woo.
But if I call and say, hey, I am so sorry. I wanted to be home at 5 o'clock, but unfortunately, I got a big project at work and I got to stay later to get it done. And then when I left work at 7 o'clock, it was an accident on the freeway and I got caught up in traffic. And then I was hungry, so I had to pull over or, whatever. But it makes it a much easier, a much better conversation than just like, oh, it's 10 o'clock. Oh, yeah, I'm home. And that's the same way the bank feels when you're communicating with them about we know life happens, right? Life happens to people every day unexpectedly. People die, people get injured, people lose loved ones, people get health diagnoses and conditions and stuff like that. Life is not fair, and it happens to people every day. But at the end of the day, just because something's going on in your life, it doesn't negate the fact that the other people are in need of their resources, their money, that communication and things like that. Because that bank, you're just a name on a spreadsheet to them. And so understanding that really is so important to navigating the process successfully. It's communicating.
Yep. And you brought up another good point, DJ, about the renovation. Sometimes you'll see this a lot of foreclosed properties where people trying to do a fancy pants renovation and things went south. Oh man, we were trying to put in hardwood floors and noticed there is no floor underneath. So that was an extra expense here and there. And then you're in over your head and boom, there you go. You've just priced yourself out of the money that you allocated and things like that. So I know this happens on the other side about how you've worked with investors to find these foreclosures. Because I know you said that's how you first got into real estate. Was it the foreclosure route, or what piqued your interest into real estate in the first place?
Yeah, so I started in real estate during kind of our big foreclosure crisis, back in like 2029. Well, I about to say 2019, 2009. Sorry, I got to get my dates right. And that's when I started. So about 15 years ago. And the way we started was going to the actual courthouse steps at the foreclosure auction and buying the house on the courthouse steps. So in Georgia, the first Tuesday of the month across all counties in the state, they have a foreclosure auction. And we used to go there and buy properties. And properties were as cheap as $1,000 sometimes.
Wow.
And those were dilapidated properties or things like that, but as cheap as $1,000 up into the, hundreds, thousands, millions, or whatever else may be the case. And so you would go there the first Tuesday of the month and bid on houses going to foreclosure. And that's where I started. And from there, it went from just buying at the foreclosure courthouse steps to then actually talking to homeowners and investors who were actually facing foreclosure before the foreclosure process. And we used to purchase those pre-foreclosure and help those people get out of a tough and difficult situation.
So that's more buying notes, right?
Well, that wasn't buying notes side. That was actually just taking a homeowner or investor and helping them get their equity out before the foreclosure. So it was basically the homeowner saying, hey, I know I'm going to lose my house. I'd rather sell it and make a profit before the foreclosure sale.
And how are you finding these people? They know you from word of mouth, or are these cold calls?
I wish they knew me from word of mouth. Now that I'm on this podcast, I think my phone's going to be ringing, right? So, what I mean? It's a combination of things. So we are actively reaching out to folks saying, hey, we would love to buy your house, just via cold calling, via mailers and things like that. And then also too, the auction list is public information. And so we utilize that information and to target these folks and say, hey, look, we know you're going through a difficult time. There are solutions, there are options. And we provide a myriad of options, from buying their property to providing them resources and services from local government entities and potentially being their agent or whatever else may be the case. Our goal is to help 1 million homeowners. And I keep on saying that is that, I run a small little operation. We may buy 1 to 2 houses a month. We're not a big operation. We're a small mom and pop shop.
That's a lot too. 1 to 2 a month. That's a pretty big deal. Celebrate.
That is. But just in the state of Georgia, right? There were over 1,000 properties this last month scheduled for the foreclosure sale, right? In 1 month, right? Now, all of those won't make 1 month, one state. All of those won't make it to the actual foreclosure. Maybe only, 40% of them will actually make it. But if you look at the math on that, I'm not even buying, a couple percentage of the houses. And we don't only just buy foreclosures, we just buy regular houses from regular homeowners or landlords and stuff like that. So most months I'm not even buying foreclosed properties. And so I just have a passion for those people because I just have seen so many properties along the way where people lose a ton of equity because they just don't know. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what to do. They're scared. They're nervous. They're afraid. And they believe that once that letter comes in the mail, that the bank owns their house, right? They don't understand the process and understand the options at their disposal. And so my goal is just to elevate the conversation and let folks know that you do have options when you face foreclosure. And the best thing you can do is look at every option available to you and make a great decision for you. And what that decision is, it's all dependent on your situation, but it's going to be what's best for you at that time.
Exactly. Nobody else can tell you what's best for you. Like that's a case by case basis. People think real estate is this blanket thing, but yeah, always take it as a case by case basis. If only there was a book people could turn to. And that's another thing. Okay, if I'm thinking about foreclosure, do I want to look and find a book to learn more, or what are the best ways to get this information?
There are so many great places to get information on foreclosure, but I believe that the best resource out there is a book called The Foreclosure Fix: 12 Proven Steps to Beat the Bank, Escape Foreclosure, and Turn Your Property into a Profitable Asset. It's a valuable resource that you can get wherever books are sold. And it just has a ton of information, not necessarily just for the investor who's trying to go after foreclosures or for the deeder who's looking at foreclosures, but for the homeowner who's actually facing foreclosure. And ultimately, I would not stop with just one resource. I would say you got to look at every resource available to you. And that means that on your lender's website, there's information available so you can understand that process. In most states, when the attorney sends a demand letter stating that, hey, you have a certain amount of time to pay back whatever delinquency you have in your loan, they typically have resources listed or government places you can go. I would always check out the government website, HUD.gov, because they provide free resources from the federal government. It's absolutely free to you. You can get a home ownership counselor, and all these things are free resources that are provided. But if you don't take advantage of them and you just stick your head in the sand, you could miss out on resources available to you that will help you pay back whatever delinquency or arrears you have and get you back to a place where you can make your monthly payment.
Yeah, please reach out, people, for the resources, because that is one heartbreaking thing where someone goes to foreclosure and they could have had a check coming back to them in this whole process instead of just sticking the head in the sand. Are there other things you look for? So like you said, when you started off at the foreclosure auctions, do you look up the properties beforehand and be like, all right, these are my 10 golden eggs that I'm bidding up to this amount for these? Or it is just a auction type of what you see is what you get?
No, so it's actually both, right? But, I got to be a good steward with the little coins that I got now. Like, I can't be out here just wasting them. And so long story short, yes, we do a thorough due diligence process, right?
Okay.
Because in Georgia, the way the foreclosure auction works is that you don't pay later, right? So like when you go to the auction, you bring certified cashier's checks to the auction. And if you win that bid, you sign over the amount of your bid to the attorney and it becomes their money, right? And so before you bid on any property, it's advisable that you, one, go see the property. Number two, you actually have your attorney or title company run a title search so you know if there are any liens, judgments, or encumbrances upon that property. Because I've seen people render funds at a foreclosure auction thinking they bought a property and maybe they bought the second position loan, or maybe that property sold previously in a tax sale, and so they didn't get anything. And so it is definitely a situation where you want to make sure you understand the type of auction you're at, because you do have some auctions that will say, we are going to provide you with clear marketable title. And those typically are auctions from auction companies, right? Yeah. But when you're going to these judicial auctions, sheriff sales, foreclosure sales, whatever your state may call them or county or city may call them, you have to understand and read the fine print, because some make you bring a 10% deposit or a 5% deposit, and then you can pay the rest off in the next 30 or 60 days. Some you need the money right away and things like that. And then some of them, if you do put down a deposit, you may find that your deposit is non-refundable. So as a result, you need to make sure you understand what you are buying, right? What type of title they'll be giving you. Will it be clear marketable title? Will it just be a foreclosure deed? Will it be a warranty deed and deed of trust state? You need to understand all that. So I wouldn't advise anybody just to hop in uninformed and uneducated. You need to make sure that you're spending the time needed to educate yourself on the process for the location in which you are investing. And as an investor, as a deeder, it's so important, right? You know what I mean? It makes only good sense that if you're going to go spend your hard-earned dollars and try to increase your investment, you do the due diligence required.
Yeah, very good point. Speaking of due diligence, you did mention having the title checked. Who does this for you? Like, what kind of people are on your team? Or who do you want to call when, one, you're the investor that wants to get into foreclosures, and two, if you're that investor that needs to think about foreclosure as your next step?
Yeah, so there are two different people or two different sides of the coin. If you are the investor thinking about foreclosure as your next step, you need to have a good foreclosure attorney in whatever state that you are planning to foreclose in, right? Because they will do all the heavy lifting, all the work for you, and they will kind of get you to the finish line. So that's the investor side. If you are the investor who's trying to buy a foreclosure and you're going to the auction, you need to have an attorney or title company do due diligence on that property by going and getting a title report. And there are companies online like Pro Title or Baldwin Advisory Group where you can go buy a title report on a property for, $85 to $100 or so. And those are websites easily available. But when you are dealing in the world of foreclosure, having a good attorney or title company is going to be really important to your overall success, because those companies provide you with a title report. But if you don't know how to read a title report, what good is that for you, right? You know what I mean? If you don't know what a lien says or means, or if it's still enforceable or things like that. And so having an attorney on your team and at your disposal was going to be super helpful for you in that process.
That's a great tip. Yeah. And I think a lot of people too don't realize, if you're going through a foreclosure, like, you are in charge. Despite the stigma with it, you do have all the power in that situation where, the ball is in your court. It's up to you what happens next. So you don't want it to go into foreclosure. There are many, many options. So since you're the one in charge, you're in the driver's seat pretty much. You need to explore all the options before you make that final decision.
That's so true, Crystal. The big thing I want to say, and what I want to make sure the deeders understand, what I want to leave them with, is this. When life happens to you, you never know how you're going to react to it, right? And, I've been in situations where I'm like, why didn't you just do something? Why didn't you just do something? But we get afraid, we are nervous. And in our culture today, when people are on Instagram and Facebooks and everything with their private jets and their feet
fabulous
in the sand.
Well, then there was a thing. Some people rent those private jets. You can rent a broke down private jet just to take the pictures.
Exactly. Living what is perceived as their best life. It's so hard for people to say, why is my life not like this, right? But what I want to tell you is that people don't typically share their low points. Like, what people are proud to share are their highlights, right? They don't show you the fact that they barely graduated from college, or that in the process of graduating from college, they racked up $300,000 in student loans, right? They don't show you the low part of it. All they show you is the graduation cap. And it's the same thing with investors out here today and homeowners. Like, people will say, oh yeah, I made $50,000 or $100,000 on this deal. Look at me, this is my check. They don't show you the fact that they spent $50,000 in marketing, plus, they paid all these other people all this money and they're actually making $0. Right. People put up all these facades. And at the end of the day, when you are facing a challenging situation, I'm not saying you broadcast it, but I'm just saying, understand there are other people who are facing equally challenging situations, and you are not alone. You are not by yourself. And every day somebody's going through something challenging, and it may not be foreclosure per se, but it's something equally as challenging. And so do not stick your head in the sand. Do not become depressed. Do not say, woe is me, but change your perspective and say, you can get through this. And if you can get through whatever you're going through, whether it's foreclosure, whether it's a health issue, whatever else may be the case, then you know that you can get through the next big thing, because life is full of challenges, but the reward is that with each challenge that comes, you prevail, you succeed, and you get better and better and stronger and stronger. And before you know it, you're a deeder with deeds on deeds on deeds on deeds.
Stacks. Yes. Well, thank you. Very, very well said. Thank you, DJ Olojo. Well, we appreciate it. Your book is out now.
The Foreclosure Fix. 12 proven steps to beat the bank, escape foreclosure, and turn your property into a profitable asset.
Awesome. Well, enjoy the rest of your time here in Texarkana. Ruth just randomly stops and you got to get out. She loves to go to the Sizzler. I can't believe they still have the Sizzler here. See, this might be too young for you to know. It was a gross restaurant. Well, we're not going to call it gross for the people that love it, but think of Ponderosa. Ponderosa is what I like to call it. So that's where we are in terms of going back in time and dated restaurants.
Well, hey, I appreciate the fact that you think I'm too young to understand what the sizzler
Yay.
is. You know, the
There
bow
you
tie
go.
works then, you know, it gives me some youth, you know, on these gray hairs that I got. So, well, appreciate you, appreciate Ruth, appreciate your listeners.
Thanks. And then where else can we find you on the internet?
You can find us at www.theforeclosurefix.com. You can check me out at DJ_Olojo on all social media channels.
All right. Well, thanks for having us, and thanks for coming on our show to educate our deeders on foreclosures.
I appreciate you. I'm happy to come back anytime. So
okay, perfect.
So Texarkana is kind of cool.
Yay. What a great conversation with DJ about foreclosures.
I love his advice about to understand where you are in the foreclosure process. I think a lot of people get this notice of pre-foreclosure envelope and think to themselves, oh, well, I'm going to lose my house. You are in the process. I think it's when you miss 2 mortgage payments, you start to go into the process. You need to call your lender immediately. I love his advice to talk to the lender about what's going on. Absolutely. If neighbor Doug owed me money, then yeah, I want to have that money. And when he stops talking to me about it, I'm going to get really angry.
Nervous.
Same with your lender.
It's like you have power. So definitely don't think of yourself in the victim seat, the woe is me seat, the I'm so sorry seat. You are in a seat of power. So you have options. There are many, many options available to you. So you need to figure out, okay. And you need to sit down with an expert too. Or if the internet is your expert, it's like, okay, option A, but obviously the lender is your first person to talk to because you have option A, B, C, it may go up to Z. So you need to explore every single option and find out what option works best for you in your situation.
Yes, we are in a housing inventory and housing supply shortage. So you should also put on your list a real estate agent to talk to, because I just got this was just posted in one of my Facebook groups for real estate agents. It was a, hey, your offer wasn't accepted text to another agent that said, we received 10 very strong offers.
Wow.
It came down to a combination of price and contingencies. The market is super tough right now for buyers. Here's some information about what we received. 0 offers asked for seller subsidy. 7 offers waived the financing contingency. 5 offers waived the appraisal contingency, and on, all these different. 9 offered a free rent back period. 9 were over list price. So if your market is similar, this was a Virginia market. If your market is similar, do you know that? You could let your home go into foreclosure, or maybe you could sell it. You still have the ding from the missed payments on your credit score, but you don't have the devastating ding of a foreclosure on your credit score. And
what
this
is a
isn't even the only
rent
option.
buyback? Yeah.
A rent back means that the seller has closed on the property and now they own it, but you still have time to get out of the property. So you are renting it back from them. You can rent it back from a conventional mortgage owned home for up to 60 days. The seller has 60 days to move into it. But if they bought it with cash, if they bought it as an investment with an investment loan, you could have a much longer rent back period. So that gives you the option. It gets you out of the mortgage payment while also giving you the option to find new housing.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. And then coming from the buyer side, an investor side, this is also, he talked about how like some of his experiences with going to tax sales and all those other things to try to get foreclosures. And definitely make sure you know what you're buying, because he talked about having those key people like the title person, because then you don't want to buy something with a whole bunch of liens on it. That's why it was going in foreclosure in the first place. And if you didn't have the budget for that, you need to come up with that cash then and there on the spot. And then look, boom, there goes your renovation budget.
Exactly. And one of the best ways to learn about all of this is to actually attend an auction with no intention of buying anything. You go in and you see how it works. I went to a local tax auction and there were like 6 or 8 of us. One guy comes in and the woman starts the bidding and he's like, 500,000, here's a check. And everybody else left. So I didn't learn very much at that particular auction, except you have to have a check ready and also you need to drop it down. But afterwards, I stayed and talked to the woman and I got a lot of information.
Oh,
She's
cool.
a government employee. She's got time on her hands because she had left out all this time to perform the auction. And then one guy comes in and shuts everybody down. It was a very interesting process. So if that's an option for you, learn about it before you get in there.
Exactly.
Like DJ said, there are some cities that allow you to pay within 30 days. My city, you need to pay by the end of the day.
So there you go. If you want to get into this, you need to educate yourself. Any other points, Mindy? That was a fun conversation.
Foreclosure isn't your only option. There's also something called a short sale. And a short sale, according to the National Association of Realtors, is when a mortgage lender agrees to accept a mortgage payoff amount less than what is owed in order to facilitate a sale of the property by a financially distressed owner. The lender forgives the remaining balance of the loan, or they could agree to forgive the remaining balance or pursue a deficiency judgment that requires the former homeowner to pay the lender all or part of the difference. So you need to understand, as the seller, what you're getting into. As the buyer, you need to understand that this is going to take a really, really long time because you write up a contract and you're like, hey, I'd like an answer by tomorrow. And the mortgage company's like, I'll answer you when I answer you. So it can be like a 3 to 6 month process to go through a short sale. But
Or
also
longer.
as the investor, you could get a smoking hot deal on a property that might otherwise not be available to you. So it can be an option, but if you need to move in right away, it's probably not the best option for you. And again, you're going to need an agent who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
I've never purchased a short sale before. I just know that it takes a long time.
Yeah, I've heard that. That definitely have the common connotation. And also think about this too, Dieters, when you're getting your financing, because if you have, let's say you go out and get a hard money loan because you think, all right, I'm going to buy this short sale and this one is looking good. Yes, I'm going to get it. Let me hit go on this hard money loan. Just remember that you're going to be making those monthly payments for a loan while you're waiting for your contract to go through. I made this mistake. And I had a hard money loan to get the ball going on my project, but totally didn't take into account all the delays that would come with the rezoning process. So just think about that when you're thinking about, am I going to save up the cash to get a short sale or the foreclosure, whatever? Just think about timelines because you don't want to have an interest rate clock ticking while you're going through a process that a foreclosure, short sale, whatever it may be, buying or selling, and then some unforeseen circumstances happen where time was of the essence. Even when I bought my first house hack, we had a snafu where one of the sellers had moved back to Mexico, so we had to find the sellers. And then the wife had died, so they had to prove that she died. So they had to provide a death certificate, and it just delayed. I think it went from November to March is when I finally closed. So sometimes you think something's going to be the super simple transaction, and then life happens, and then it drags out. So always make sure, because I had to move too in that time period. So always think about different scenarios that could take things out of whack.
And that is a really good point. That was a hassle.
Yep.
And as an owner occupant buyer, maybe that's not worth the hassle to you and you cancel the contract. That's when an investor can come in and say, I will deal with this hassle in exchange for a lower rate. I will deal with this hassle in exchange for seller financing. I will deal with this hassle in exchange for whatever. You're solving a problem that a lot of people aren't going to want to solve.
That is true. And back when interest rates were 7.5%, and it was still an amazing deal. So I stuck it out just because I knew I was getting an amazing deal. So sometimes the amazing deals they do come with a trade-off. So definitely weigh the options and see if that's actually worth it for you. Don't you love our little cozy back seat? All these antics. We got Doug in the back. We pick up not strays, but we pick up really smart guests.
Let me roll up the window here.
Strays.
We catch a stray, as it's called in the streets. Okay, so today's question comes from Lance. Lance writes, love the show. I'm at a great point. I purchased a home recently off market and I'm going to prep it to sell. Did I say sell right, Doug?
I heard
don't
sale.
know.
I'm going to prep it to sell is what I heard. Okay.
Not sail. It's not a boathouse, Lance, right? All right. I'm prepping it to sell.
There we go.
What would you say are the most important things to do to sell a house? It had been a rental property and the owner died. The renters moved out and the property doesn't meet my needs anymore. So what are the top things I should focus on first to get the house ready to sell? I think we have the perfect person in the car for this. Look at karma working out for us. Mindy, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I have so many. I also wrote a book called How to Sell Your Home. And this is right up my wheelhouse. Thank you for asking. Lance, you want to have the most updated house that is clean and staged and perfect. And if that's not in the budget, let's go back to clean.
Oh.
Clean trumps dirty or cluttered every day of the week. Now, since it sounds like it's a vacant property, staging can be helpful. But again, we've got that inventory and supply issue where staging may not need to happen. So first, I want you to walk through that whole property and walk through it with a friend. Close your mouth, open your nose, and take a big whiff. Does it smell a little musty? Open up all the windows. You want the house to present its best foot forward, so to speak. So you want it to look as nice as possible. Since you're putting it on the market so soon after you bought it, you probably don't want to throw a lot of money into it. But clean trumps cluttered and smelling nice trumps, ooh, did they have 7 cats or 9? So make sure that it smells good. And if just musty is the problem, then open up the windows. Great. Now it'll clear out. If that's not the case, if it's got aromas that you don't want to present, get an ozone machine. I have an Enerzen ozone machine from Amazon. It costs $80. I put it all through my smoked in it for 40 years house, and it took a weekend to get rid of the smell. That can help freshen up the house without costing a lot of money. Bonus, you can use it again on the next house you buy. What does the house look like? Like, have it deep cleaned. That's like $300, $400, $500. That is a great amount of money to spend on having this house nice. A couple of flower pots at the front door to make it have some curb appeal. And then staging is a big question. Is this a traditional house where you know that this room is a bedroom and you know that this is a dining room? Or does it have weird spaces? I have been through a lot of houses where you're walking, you're like, what are you going to do with that space? It's just this weird little nook or something. Those are the spaces you want to stage so that people know what they could do with that house or with that spot. A few pictures on the wall, that's great, but ultimately people want to know what they could do with the space. So definitely talk to a real estate agent and ask them, would this house benefit from staging, or is the market so hot that I don't need to spend the money?
That's a good question. Because you don't want to spend money that you're not going to get back. So yeah, asking a realtor, what kind of market am I in?
Yep. Make sure that you have, the electricity on, lights that work, all the bulbs are correct, they're not burned out. If you walk into the kitchen and it's a shrine to 1978, you've got the gold, the old brass handles, maybe swap those out to something silver. That's like $50. There's little things you could do to make the house look better. But if, you don't want to just swap out the brass handles and then all of the brass light fixtures are still there, It doesn't always make sense to make improvements of any kind. But clean always makes sense to do.
Got it. Well, great tips. I'm going to link to Mindy's book in the show notes. And if you have a question for us, please, Lance, I know some people are not talkers. Obviously, you're on with some talkers, but we want to hear your voice. So if you head to stackingdeeds.net/voicemail, you can leave us a voicemail. We can play your lovely voice in the midst of our voices. So I believe that's a wrap. So coming up, we have a couple other really cool, fun shows. So we want you to stay tuned. And also coming up, Mindy has a really, really, really cool podcast also.
My show is called Bigger Pockets Money. And because it's Bigger Pockets, real estate comes up. But we also talk about money and how you can have more.
And you have another podcast.
But wait, there's more. I have a podcast with my husband, Carl. It's called Mindy and Carl on Money, where we talk about the journey after financial independence.
Yay, I enjoy it myself. So thank you for joining us, being our guest host, Mindy. And then thank you for DJ Olojo for joining us. And I believe, Neighbor Doug, what should we do based on what we learned today?
So, what should we do based on what we learned today? First, take some advice from DJ. Whether you're an investor eyeing a deal or a homeowner facing foreclosure, remember, knowledge is power and there are tons of resources available. Find a foreclosure aficionado to help. Second, make sure the house is clean and smelling fresh as a daisy, like me, in order to get top dollar while selling a home. But the big lesson? It just dawned on me that I need to figure out a way to raise $475 of capital so I can buy Ruth's car. Then I make her lease it back from me. Since this car is built like a Sherman tank, it'll be a never-ending cash machine, just like McDonald's. Thanks to DJ Olojo for joining us today. You can find out more about their work at djolojo.com. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingdeeds.net.